ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हम्म। बात बात कीजिए, बात कीजिए, बात कीजिए। रीडिंग फ्रॉम श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 8 chapter 24 verse 1 मत्स्यावतार। श्रीराजोवाच भगवान् श्रोतुमिच्छामि हरेरद्भुतकर्मणः अवतारकथाम् आद्यां मायामत्स्य विडम्बनम्। Maharaj Parikshit said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, is eternally situated in his transcendental position. Yet he descends to this material world and manifests himself in various incarnations. His first incarnation was that of a great fish. O most powerful Shukadev Goswami, I wish to hear from you the pastimes of that fish incarnation. Supreme Personality of Godhead is all powerful, yet he accepted the form of an uncommon fish, not a common fish, uncommon fish. Whatever form the Lord takes is uncommon. This is one of the 10 original incarnations, Dashavatara. Yadartham madadhad rupam matsyam lokajugupsitam tama prakriti durmarsham karmagrasta iveshwaraha etanno bhagavan sarvam yatavad vaktumarhasi uttama-shloka-charitam sarvaloka-sukhavaham. What is the purpose for which the Supreme Person of Godhead accepted the abominable form of a fish? Exactly as an ordinary living being accepts different forms under the laws of karma. The form of a fish is certainly condemned and full of terrible pain if we didn't know. Oh my Lord, what was the purpose of this incarnation? Kindly explain this to us, for hearing about the pastimes of the Lord is auspicious for everyone. Parikshit Maharaj's question to Shukadev Goswami was based on this principle stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata vyattanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyam. The Lord appears in each incarnation to save the world from irreligious principles and especially to protect his devotees. Vamanadeva, for example, appeared to save the devotee Bali Maharaj, to save the devotee Bali Maharaj. And Bali Maharaj was not an ordinary devotee, right? He was one of the Mahajanas. Similarly, when the Supreme Person of Godhead accepted the abominable form of a fish, he must have done so to favor some devotee. Parikshit Maharaj was eager to know about the devotee for whom the Supreme Lord accepted this form. For devotees, it's very exciting to hear this, because if Supreme Lord appeared for somebody, how exalted that person must be. So devotees are curious to understand. And why this fish is abominable form, Prabhupada is writing. Jalajanavalakhani sthavaralakha vimshati. First, lowest forms is Jalaja, forms in the water. So it's very low birth. Shri Sutavacha Sutavacha Ityukto Vishnurathena Bhagavan Badarayanihi Uvacha Charitam Vishnor Matsya Rupena Yatkritam. Suta Goswami said, when Parikshit Maharaj thus inquired from Shukadev Goswami, that most powerful saintly person began describing the pastimes of the Lord's incarnation as a fish. Shri Sutavacha Go Vipra Surasadunam Chandasamapi Sheswaraha रक्षामिच्छं स्तनुर्धत्ते धर्मस्यार्थस्य चैव हि. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the forms of incarnations. Hmm? So, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, go, vipra, sura, sadhu, nam, chandasam, ishwaraha, raksham. So, go, cows, vipra, brahmanas, sura, demigods, sadhunam, devotees, chandasam, Vedic literature, raksham, protection. Hmm. Dharmasya, arthasya. Dharmasya, principles of religion. Arthasya means principles of purpose of life, not money. Um, the Supreme Lord accepts the form of Tanu Datte, mm, form of incarnations, different bodies. Supreme Person of Godhead generally appears in various types of incarnations to give protection to the cows and brahmanas. The Lord is described as Gop Brahmana Hitayacha. In other words, he is always eager to benefit the cows and brahmanas. When Lord Krishna appeared, he purposefully became a cowherd boy and showed personally how to give protection to the cows and calves. Similarly, he showed respect to Sudama Vipra, a real Brahmana. From the Lord's personal activities, human society should learn how to give protection, specifically to Brahmanas and cows. Then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of life, and protection of Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of cows, Brahminical culture cannot be maintained. And without Brahminical culture, the aim of life cannot be fulfilled. The Lord, therefore, is described as Gop Brahmana Hitaya, because his incarnation is only for the protection of the cows and Brahmanas. Unfortunately, because in Kali Yuga there is no protection of the cows and Brahminical culture, everything is in a precarious position. If human society wants to be exalted, the leaders of society must follow the instructions of Bhagavad Gita and give protection to the cows, the Brahmanas, and Brahminical culture. So Prabhupada says, a society where cows are being slaughtered, how can they expect peace and prosperity? So there can't be peace and prosperity amongst those who are encouraging cow slaughter. Hmm. Hmm. उच्चावचेषु भूतेषु चरन् वायुरिवेश्वरः नोच्चावचत्वं भजते निर्गुणत्वाद्यो गुणैः. Like the air passing through different types of atmosphere, the Supreme Lord, although appearing sometimes as a human being and sometimes as a lower animal, is always transcendental because he is above the material modes of nature. He is unaffected by higher and lower forms. Supreme Person of Godhead is the master of the material nature. Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Therefore, being the supreme controller of the laws of nature, the Lord cannot be under their influence. An example given in this regard is that although the wind blows through many places, the air is not affected by the qualities of these places. Although the air sometimes carries the odor of a filthy place, the air has nothing to do with such a place. Similarly, the Supreme Lord, being all good and all auspicious, is never affected by the material qualities like an ordinary living entity. Purusha Prakritisto hi bhungte prakriti jan gunan. When the living entity is in the material nature, is affected by its qualities. Supreme Lord, however, is not affected. Disrespectfully, one who does not know this considers the Supreme Lord an ordinary living being. Avajananti mam mudhaha. Param javam bhavam ajanantaha. Such a conclusion is reached by the unintelligent because they are unaware of the transcendental qualities of the law. Supreme Lord is all good and all auspicious. Mm. He is not affected by material qualities, and similarly, pure devotees are also not affected by material qualities. So they are in material atmosphere. They are in this material atmosphere, but they are not affected by material qualities. And to the extent that we are conditioned, we are affected by material qualities. Mm. And we are affected in such a way that we are uncontrollable. We can't control ourselves. To that extent, we are under the modes. Mm. So it's only by devotional practice that माम च यो अव्यभिचारेण भक्ति योगेन जो सेवते सगुणान समतीत्यैतान ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते. You can enter Brahma Bhuta only when Abhyabhicharini Bhakti. Abhyabhicharini Bhakti means Vyabhichari means one who is not uh, like chaste. A non-chaste woman is called Vyabhichari. So Avyabhichari means one who is not unchaste. Meaning he is not a Vyabhichari. Avyabhichari. Meaning he is chaste to Krishna only. अभिविचारिणी भक्ति योगेन जो सेवते सगुणान समतीत्यैतान. He can transcend the modes. Actually, these two verses are so confusing. One here, it's Krishna is saying that one who does this can do, just one who does devotion comes to Brahmabhuta. And then he says, Brahmabhuta prasannatmana sochati akankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. So in one he's saying unflinching devotion results in Brahmabhuta. And then he says Brahmabhuta results in my devotion. So it's mm, it's what is that? Bewilderment, confusion. We can't understand Krishna's statements. But yeah, bhakti means the perfection of devotion, meaning pure devotion, and especially, yeah, up to the stage of the prema, higher stages of devotion is achieved only after Brahmabhuta. Not pure devotional service is achieved after Brahmabhuta. Till then, at least it should be unflinching, meaning it should be only dependent on Krishna. It can be mixed, but it should still be only dependent on Krishna. Then that person will come to Brahmabhuta. So, see, devotion to Krishna is so powerful. Akama sarvakamo va moksha kama udhari. Whatever it is we want, if we go to Krishna, then we will anyway, inevitably, we will be benefited. That is mercy of Krishna. आसीदातीत कल्पान्ते ब्राह्मो नैमित्तिको लयः समुद्रोपप्लुतास्तत्र लोका भूरादयो नृपा. Okay, so the narration starts. O King Parikshit, at the end of the past millennium, at the end of Brahma's day, because Lord Brahma sleeps during the night, annihilation took place. So this annihilation is partial annihilation. And the three worlds were covered by the water of the ocean. The three words, Bhur, Bhuva, Swa, they get inundated and the higher planetary systems remain when Brahma goes to sleep. And again, when Brahma gets up next day, again he recreates these lower planetary systems. Kalenagata nidrasya dhatu shishaishor bali mukhato nisrutan vedan hayagrivon harat. At the end of Brahma's day, when Brahma felt sleepy and desired to lie down, the Vedas were emanating from his mouth. And a great demon named Hayagriva stole the Vedic knowledge. Natva taddana vendrasya hayagrivasya chestitam tadhara safari rupam shafari rupam Bhagavan Haririshwaraha. Understanding the acts of the great demon Hayagriva, the Supreme Lord Hari, who is full of all opulences, assumed the form of a fish and saved the Vedas by killing the demon. So this is one Matsya. This is one Matsya avatar, where the Lord appears as a fish and saved the Vedas from Hayagriva. Because everything was inundated by water, to save the Vedas, it was necessary for the Lord to assume the form of a fish. तत्र राजऋषिकश्चिन्नाम्नः सत्यव्रतो महान् नारायण परो तपत् तपः सलिलाशनः. Now, during the Chakshusha Manvantara, there was a great king named Satyavrata, who was a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. Satyavrata performed austerities by subsisting only on water. Hmm. So Prabhupada is explaining, the Lord assumed one fish incarnation to save the Vedas at the beginning of the Swayambhuva Manvantara, and at the end of the Chakshusha Manvantara, the Lord again assumed the form of a fish just to favor the great king named Satyavrata. Hmm. As there were two incarnations of Varaha, there are also two incarnations of Matsya. The Lord appeared as one fish incarnation to save the Vedas by killing Hayagriva, and he assumed the other fish incarnation to show favor to King Satyavrata. योऽसावस्मिन् महाकल्पे तनयस्य विवस्वतः श्राद्धदेव इति ख्यातो मनुत्वे हरिणार्पितः. In this, the present millennium, King Satyavrata later became the son of Vivaswan. King Satyavrata later became the son of Vivaswan, the king of the sun planet, and was known as Shraddha Deva. By the mercy of the Supreme Person of Godhead, he was given the post of Manu. So, Satyavrata became son of Vivaswan. And his name was Shraddha Deva. And he became the Manu. एकदा कृतमालायां कुर्वतो जलतर्पणं तस्याञ्जल्युदके काचित् चफरी एकाभ्यपद्यत. One day, while King Satyavrata was performing austerities by offering water on the bank of the river Kritamala, a small fish appeared in the water in his palms. Satyabratonjali gatam sahatoyena bharata utsasarja nadi toye safarim Dravideshwaraha. Satyavrata, the king of Dravida Desha, threw the fish into the water of the river along with the water in his palm. Tamahasati karunam mahakarunikam nrupam yadobhyo gnati ghatibhyo deenam mam deenavatsala katham visrujase rajan bhitam asmin sarijjale. With an appealing voice, the poor small fish said to King Satyavrata, who was very merciful, "My dear king, protector of the poor, why are you throwing me in the water of the river, where there are other aquatics who can kill me? I am very much afraid of them." In the Matsya Purana, it is said, Ananta Shaktir Bhagavan Matsya Rupi Janardanaha Kridartham Yachayamasa Swayam Satyabratam Nrupam. Ananta Shaktir Bhagavan, Lord possesses unlimited potency. Matsya Rupi Janardanaha Kridartham, Kridartham, sporting, sport. And Leela means sport. His pastime in the form of a fish. Yachayam, Yachayam. He begged protection from King Satyavrata. It was his sport. Samatmanonugrahartham pritya matsyavapurdharam ajanan rakshanarthaya safaryaha samano dadhe. To please himself, King Satyavrata, not knowing that the fish was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, decided with great pleasure to give the fish protection. So Kshatriyas are generally happy to give protection. Here is an example of giving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead even without knowledge. Such service is called Agnata Sukruti, and this is also true with respect to devotees also. King Satyavrata wanted to show his own mercy, not knowing that the fish was Lord Vishnu. By such unknowing devotional service, one is favored by the Supreme Lord. Service rendered to the Supreme Lord, knowingly or unknowingly, never goes in vain. So, the one important point to note is that those who are in Sattva Guna, they have more chances of Agnata Sukruti because they have generally good behavior, like King Satyavrata. And irrespective of who the person is, they might decide to do some service, some help. Hmm. Hmm. So somebody who can't see, another person say carrying a lot of weight, and he's seeing as a person carrying weight, and this might person might say, okay, can I drop you somewhere? And if that person happened to be a devotee, then he got Agnata Sukruti without even knowing the glory of a devotee. So, which is why, however, for progress in spiritual life, Rajoguna and Tamoguna are detrimental. Rajoguna and Tamoguna doesn't help one to make progress in devotional life. So, one should at least come to the mode of goodness. Hmm. And eventually, only after that, we can transcend. Traigunya Vishya Veda Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna. So, we have to transcend the modes, but to transcend the modes, first one should come to the mode of goodness. Hmm. Which is why I keep saying that try to mold your life in such a way that you reduce Rajoguna and Tamoguna. How do we increase Rajoguna? Say we have to go to office, it takes us half an hour. And then we leave exactly 30 minutes in advance or just 25 minutes in advance, right? Which means that then what we want, we have to go fast, which means that it will increase our Rajoguna. Simple. So leave 5 minutes early. It will save you from falling down to the lower modes. Then we can remain in Sattva Guna. So everything like this, we have to see what makes us rush, brainlessly, like chicken, headless chicken. We just like running, 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 no time to think. Rajoguna. Now then you have to think, okay, how do I put a full stop to this nonsense? How do I come to a more sane situation? Sane situation is where a human being is not running around mindlessly without time. That is brainless. So we should give ourselves time. But the modern civilization, modern way of life is all about pushing yourself into Rajoguna. That's what modern life is. And spiritual life is just the opposite. So it's important somehow that we develop Sattva Guna. And how do we develop Sattva Guna? By being in association of devotees, we can come to Sattva Guna. तस्यादीनतरं वाक्यम् आश्रुत्य स महीपतिः कलशाप्सु निधायैनां दयालुर्निन्य आश्रमम्. The merciful king, being moved by the pitiable words of the fish, placed the fish in a water jug and brought him to his own residence. He was pitiable, he was compassionate. Sa tu tatraikaratrena vardhamanakamandalau alabdvatmavakasham va idamaha mahipatim. But in one night, that fish grew so much that he could not move his body comfortably in the water of the pot. He then spoke to the king as follows: "O my dear king, I do not like living in this water pot with such great difficulty. Huh? Therefore, please find some better reservoir of water where I can live comfortably." Then, taking the fish out of the water pot, the king threw him in a large well. But within a moment, the fish developed to the length of 3 cubits. What was cubit? I remember, I forgot. Feet. Cubit. 1 cubit is 45 centimeters. That's all. Okay. Okay, so anyway, um, he became big enough for that reservoir of water. The fish then said, "My dear king, this reservoir of water is not fit for my happy residence. Please give me a more extensive pool of water, for I have taken shelter of you." O Maharaj Parishit, the king took the fish from the well and threw him in a lake. But the fish then assumed a gigantic form exceeding the extent of the water. The fish then said, "O king, I'm a large aquatic, and this water is not at all suitable for me. Now kindly find some way to save me. It would be better to put me in the water of a lake that will never reduce." When thus requested, King Satyavrata took the fish to the largest reservoir of water, but when that also proved insufficient, the king at last threw the gigantic fish into the ocean. Just imagine, how will the king throw a gigantic fish into the ocean? Huh? We don't know, but we're not bothered about that, right? We're bothered about what's going to happen next. While being thrown in the ocean, the fish said to King Satyavrata, "Oh hero, in this water there are very powerful and dangerous sharks. Makara, Makaradaya, Makarakundala, that will eat me. Therefore, you should not throw me in this place." After hearing these sweet words from the Supreme Person of Godhead in the form of a fish, the king, being bewildered, asked him, "Who are you, sir? You simply bewilder us." "My lord, in one day you expanded yourself for hundreds of miles, covering the water of the river and the ocean. Before this, I had never seen or heard of such an aquatic animal. My lord, you are certainly the inexhaustible Supreme Person of Godhead, Narayana, Sri Hari. It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic." So obviously he was a devotee. So being a devotee, he was able to understand who else can do such uncommon activities. Either it can be some asura, mm, or a devata, or the Supreme Lord. Now, but a devotee can recognize his Lord. Huh? So the devotee could understand Bhaktya Mam Abhijanati. So he is able to understand, like, who else can do this except the Supreme Lord? So he's saying, "You are Narayana, Hari. Hmm? It is to show your mercy to the living entities that you have now assumed the form of an aquatic. O my Lord, Master of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, O best of enjoyers, Lord Vishnu, you are the leader and destination of surrendered devotees like us. Therefore, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. You are the leader and destination of surrendered devotees like us. And therefore, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto you. All your pastimes and incarnations appear for the welfare of all living entities. Therefore, my Lord, I wish to know the purpose for which you have assumed this form of a fish." So, everything is for the welfare of all living entities. Therefore, my Lord, I wish to know the purpose for which you have assumed the form of a fish. न ते अरविन्दाक्षपदोपसर्पणं मृषा भवेत् सर्वसुहृत्प्रियात्मनः यथेतरेषां पृथगात्मनां सताम् adidrisho yad vapuradbhutam hinaha. O my Lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, the worship of the demigods who are in the bodily concept of life is fruitless in all respects. But because you are the supreme friend and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet is never useless. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish. O my Lord, possessing eyes like the petals of a lotus, the worship of the demigods is fruitless in all respects. But because you are the supreme friend and dearmost super soul of everyone, worship of your lotus feet is never useless. You have therefore manifested your form as a fish. The demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Surya are ordinary living entities who are differentiated parts and parcels of the Supreme Person of Godhead. The Lord expands himself through the living beings. His personal Vishnu Tattva forms, which are all spiritual, are called Swamsha, and the living entities are called Vibhinnamsha. Some of the Vibhinnamsha forms are spiritual, and some are a combination of matter and spirit. The conditioned souls in this material world are different from their external bodies made of material energy. Thus, the demigods living in the upper planetary systems and the living entities living in the lower planetary system are of the same nature. Nonetheless, those living as human beings on this planet are sometimes attracted to worshipping the demigods in the higher planetary systems. Such worship is temporary. As the human beings on this planet have to change their bodies, the living entities known as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and so on will also have to change their bodies in due course of time. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Antavantu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedasam. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Kamaistaister hritagnaanaha prapadyantyana devataha. Those who do not know the position of the demigods are inclined to worship the demigods for some material purpose. But the results of such worship are never permanent. Consequently, here it is said, Yathe taresham pruthagatmanam satam padopasarpanam mrisha bhavet. In other words, if one is to worship someone else, he must worship the Supreme Person of Godhead. Then his worship will never be fruitless. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even a slight attempt to worship the Supreme Person of Godhead is a permanent asset. Therefore, as recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam, Tyaktva sadharmam charanambujam harehe. One should take to the worship of the lotus feet of Hari, even if this means giving up the so-called occupational duty assigned because of the particular body one has accepted. Because worship in terms of the body is temporary, it does not bear any permanent fruit, but worship of the Supreme Lord gives immense benefit. So this one point yesterday I was discussing with somebody. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam hare. One should take to the worship of the lotus feet of Hari, even if this means giving up the so-called occupational duty assigned because of the particular body one has accepted. So there's always this kind of confusion about, on one end, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Bhagavatam says, Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanambujam Harer. But then we say that do your duty. What is this? What is going on? Why are we telling against what Krishna is saying? We're not telling anything against what Krishna is saying, but it depends on our maturity. A person who is completely confident about Supreme Lord's protection and that Supreme Lord will take care of him can give up all his occupational duty. It's up to his faith in Krishna. But generally it's difficult for common people, common or most devotees to have this kind of faith. So as a result, we might adopt the lower platform of karma yoga till we get that faith in Krishna. Otherwise, the higher platform is to give up everything and take full shelter of Krishna. So we have to understand that it's not that working is a higher platform. Working is not a higher platform. Working is a lower platform. Giving up everything is a higher platform, but that cannot be accepted artificially. One has to come. One should be at that platform, the platform of full surrender, full faith in Krishna. Then they can take that path. And some misunderstanding that no, if you do dharma, you have to do dharma. That means that you have to do your karma. Without that, we can't just skip over it. Is not correct. We can obviously skip over it. That's what this verse is saying. Tyaktva swadharmam charanambujam harer bhajan apakvota pathet tato yadi. This verse is saying, Tyaktva sadharmam, he gave up his swadharma, charanambujam harer, and he took shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhajan apakvo, but his bhajana was apakva. The patet yato adi. And if so, see, if he patet means if he falls down, there is no loss. Yatra kvava bhadram abhudamushyakim ova tapto bhajatam swadharmataha. So there is no loss, Krishna says. There is no loss. It's exalted to even momentarily take full shelter of Krishna. But which is why sometimes, we help devotees who are wanting to surrender to make sure that their surrender will not reverse. But surrendering fully is exalted, is glorious. But then there's also the consideration of one has to follow their spiritual authorities, what Guru is saying. We can't transcend, we can't reject Guru's words in the name of surrender. So all these things we have to understand. Okay, so I'll stop here. There are any questions, comments? By the way, so today is a glorious Ratha Yatra. So you can pray for the mercy of Lord Jagannath, who is going back from Sri Kshetra, from he is going back from Dwaraka to Vrindavan today. So we should pray for the uh, getting Lord Jagannath's mercy. Lord Jagannath is Krishna in separation from Radha. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha in separation from Krishna. So we should pray for their mercy so that we can also enter into their pastimes. And uh, our goal in Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya is to make Radha and Krishna meet. So this is why this Rath Yatra is so important. It's so important for us because it's the meeting. Krishna left Dwaraka to come to Kurukshetra for the eclipse. And his intention was that somehow he thought that yes, Rajavasis will also be here, so I should be able to meet them. So that is, Krishna is always looking for opportunity to be with Rajavasis and especially the gopis and especially Srimati Radharani. So, and we are so fortunate that Supreme Lord in his mood of separation and the Supreme Goddess in the mood of separation are our protectors and uh, uh, yeah, what should we say? I mean, we are doing bhakti under their protection. We are following the path given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are very fortunate to be in this sampradaya, and today we should pray, beg for mercy. Of course, sometimes devotees say, Rath Yatra, Supreme Lord Jagannath is more happy today. He's always happy. But of course, he's more happy because he's going to meet, he's going to go to Vrindavan. So Jagannath will bestow mercy on us anytime if we sincerely pray to him. Uh, but yeah, today will be more special. So we can all pray for his mercy so that we can make progress on our path back home, back to Vrindavan. Back home, back to Vrindavan. Okay, so we'll stop here if anybody has any comments. Yeah. Okay, no comments. Okay, we'll close. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय वांछा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय समवेत गौर भक्तवृंद की जय हरे कृष्णा
हरे
हरे
कृष्ण।